Call the meeting to order, and we'll do roll call. Deputy
Present.
Warden Matthew Ross.
You want to do?
Councilor Angela Thurber.
Yes. Present.
Councilor George Panzer.
Here.
Dave Tudor, and all staff, including myself. So roll call. We're all here. No regrets. I would like to ask us now to pause to seek guidance. Okay, the next, before we approve the agenda, is there any additions or deletions? I have an addition, and it's the community spirit plaque to the municipalities of Digby.
4.6.
Community spirit
So just put spirit award, if you wish, community spirit.
Award's easier to spell than plaque. All right, award.
That's fine. Now, is there any, RTO, please?
I'd like someone to add an in-camera item, please, legal.
So moved?
Second.
No, I meant,
I'll
we weren't
move
really
it.
still moving it.
I'll move it. That's right. Sorry.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, the next is someone to approve the amended agenda, please.
A motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. The first of our agenda under delegations and presentations is Waste Check, the EPR that we requested. Gus Green, who is manager of Waste Check, couldn't wait to come, so he decided to stay in the office so he could be here for us, which I do appreciate, Gus, because I know the horses are waiting. On saying that, would someone make the motion for Gus to do the presentation, please?
I motion to approve the waste check presentation.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Go ahead, Gus, thank you so much.
So the big question, why do we want to talk about EPR in Nova Scotia? In 2005, the solid waste system in Nova Scotia cost municipalities $70 million. Fast forward 10 years to 2015, that amount has increased to almost $110 million. And the cost for last year is estimated to come in about $140 million. The trend is obvious, and the cost is clearly becoming unsustainable for municipalities. So what is extended producer responsibility? Well, it's an environmental approach where a producer's responsibility for a product is extended to the post-consumer stage of a product's life. Meaning right now I go to Sobeys and I buy my favorite pack of Kraft dinner. Once I leave the store, Kraft is no longer responsible for that package. Under extended producer responsibility, Kraft would remain responsible for that packaging. So how does EPR work? Well, currently, right now, I take that KD package home and I put it out to the curb and it gets recycled, but my municipal units, you guys, have to pay the cost, and our property tax dollars go to pay for the cost of that recycling. Under EPR, the responsibility for those actions and the costs are passed back to industry. Now, in order to pay those costs, industry puts a small fee on the price of each product. The fees are typically fractions of a penny. So 80% of Canada already lives in jurisdictions where EPR exists. It's really just Alberta and Atlantic Canada that are behind here. And there's some benefits to it. One, it's economic. It drives efficiencies and also reduces municipal tax burden. It also drives design for the environment. If industry is responsible for paying for the cost of recycling their products, then they may start taking a little bit more care about what kind of products to introduce into the into the marketplace. And of course, the social aspect. If we want corporations to behave in a socially responsible way, they need to be at the table during discussions. So in Nova Scotia, we've been talking about EPR for a very long time, at least 10 years that I remember. But things really took a turn for the more serious in 2017. we had been pressing the Minister of Environment for EPR, and the Minister wrote a letter to the regional chairs with two tasks in it. They said before the province would even consider EPR, we were required to work with NSFM and conduct an efficiency study on solid waste management in Nova Scotia, and that the funding would be paid for by Divert Nova Scotia. The second thing is if we wanted the province to consider EPR, we had to work again with NSFM to bring forward a detailed consensus-based proposal for what EPR would look like in Nova Scotia. In that 2017 letter from the minister, these are bullets that the minister had in the letter of things that we had to include in our model for EPR. They wanted a model with a proven track record for cost efficiency. They wanted demonstrated consensus among municipalities, both large and small, and urban and rural. They wanted a demonstrated consensus among businesses, small, medium, and large. They wanted low or no impact to small business. They wanted sufficient detail in order for the province to consider public policy impacts. We had to maintain the current system while reducing costs, and it had to be consistent with other programs across the country. So, pretty big wish list. One of the jokes at the time was, is there anything else the minister would like a pony or a unicorn? So I said that the minister wrote the regional chairs. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, the province of Nova Scotia is broken into 7 waste management regions, and each one of those regions appoints a municipal councillor to be their regional chair. In the case of us, Region 7, the chair of WasteTrek, Warden Gregory, is our regional chair. And those regional chairs normally meet about every 6 weeks. Obviously, this was a different kind of a year because of COVID, so that didn't happen. But normally, they meet about every 6 weeks. Now, for the purpose of carrying out these 2 big asks from the Minister of Environment, the regional chairs formed a subcommittee that they call the Municipal Provincial Priorities Group. And on that committee, there were 2 of those elected regional chairs, 2 of the regional coordinators from across the province, 2 representatives of another group called the Managers and Directors Group, which I was one of those representatives, 2 representatives from Nova Scotia Environment, 2 representatives from Divert Nova Scotia, representation from NSFM, and also from Municipal Affairs. So this is a group that actually did the heavy lifting on those 2 things, the efficiency study and the EPR program. So whenever I say the regional chairs did this, I'm really talking about this group of people here. So carrying on with our timeline. That was in 2017 when the minister asked for those 2 things. It took almost 2 years. But in May of 2019, regional chairs submitted Preserving the Culture of Recycling, a proposal for extended producer responsibility for packaging and printed paper in Nova Scotia. And there's a hyperlink there to the government's website where you can find that document. And then on September 9th of that same year, we finally were able to submit Efficiency and Effectiveness of the Solid Waste Resource Management System. And again, there's a link where you can find that document. Both are worth a read. Also in 2019, NSFM passed a resolution calling for EPR, and NSFM has been very supportive and very vocal on that topic since then. But other than that, not too much has happened. The last thing that happened from our perspective was back in September of 2020, the Department of Environment got a new Deputy Minister, Scott Farmer, so we had a virtual meeting with him to make sure he was up to speed on both those issues. Of course, now we have a new Premier and a new Minister of Environment, so we've requested meetings with the new Minister of Environment. We haven't heard back on that request yet. I'm sure they will meet with us. It's just a question of whether or not anything will come from it. I will say that our new Minister of Environment, Keith Irving, is a former regional chair himself. He was chair of Valley Solid Waste and sat on the Regional Chairs Committee. So he's very well informed on municipal matters. So that's a good thing from our perspective. So what did we learn talking about EPR? Well, there were some opportunities identified. EPR certainly improves efficiency. It would bring a standardized approach to recycling across the province. Right now, we've been working for about 20 years to try and have a uniform recycling sorting list across the province, and we haven't got there yet. We're very close now, but there are still differences from region to region. And right now there's about 9 or 10 recycling facilities across the province of Nova Scotia. Once EPR happens, there will likely only be one, probably only one for Atlantic. So that will require that list be standardized. Big opportunity to reduce the municipal tax burden in a couple of ways. Right now, your recycling is processed by Scotia Recycling. Every month you write them a check. Under EPR, industry would be responsible for those costs. Industry would also be responsible for the cost of collecting the recyclable material. So right now, you pay for that collection cost. There's a chance to recoup some of those costs from industry as well. Also, under these programs, there's money paid directly to the municipal units for things like education. So there's the tax saving of the avoided costs, things you don't have to pay, but then there's also actual money in your hand as well. Certainly reduce market risk when you're recycling if you're doing it as one unit, as a province or as Atlantic Canada. There's some potential for jobs to be gained, and there's also opportunities for increased diversion as more materials get added to the recycling program. Now, there were concerns raised as well, of course, potential for job loss if you were a municipal unit that owned your own recycling facility. This was a potential for job loss and also for stranded infrastructure. If you own that facility, you'd have to be looking for something else to do with it once EPR comes in. One thing about our region is we are incredibly well structured for this. Because we're so small, our approach from the beginning has really been about moving waste. So we're serviced by 3 transfer stations, Digby, Clare, and Yarmouth. So for us, EPR could happen seamlessly, and our residents, shouldn't even know it happened unless they're paying attention to the news. So we're all well set in that way. One of the other concerns is that consumers are already paying, and that's true. Every time you buy one of those products at the store, you're paying a fee that's being collected by industry, and it's not benefiting the people of Nova Scotia. And you're paying a second time because it's impacting your municipal tax dollars when you put your recycling under the curb. One of the other big concerns we heard a lot during our consultation on EPR was about the impact on small business. CFIB was very good at standing on a soapbox and screaming that EPR meant the end of all small business. It was the death knell for small business. The reality is that's not true. There are tremendous protections in EPR for small business, and I'll talk about some of them later. But one of the things that's interesting is in BC, where they have EPR, and they've had it for a number of years, there's over 400,000 businesses in British Columbia. The ones that are the stewards, the one who pay the bulk of the cost of the EPR program in that province, there's 1,296 of them, or 1/3 of 1% of the businesses. That's who's seriously impacted by EPR. So this has nothing to do with small business. It doesn't impact small business, and it doesn't impact medium-sized business. So the proposed model that we drafted up for our province, and that we hope our province will act on, is modeled very closely after the British Columbia model. It calls for the use of existing infrastructure and human resources. And again, in our case, where we're set up with transfer stations, we would certainly be using infrastructure that we already have. Municipalities have the right of first refusal for collection and education. Now, what that means is if you want to stop collecting recyclables from your residents, you can. The industry has to pick up the cost and go do it themselves. It wouldn't make sense for you to do that because right now under one hauling contract, you're collecting your recyclables and your solid waste, your garbage, and your organics. It would make more sense to negotiate and be compensated for the recycling portion of that contract. You could also walk away from education and say, no, we want industry to do all the recycling education. Again, it wouldn't make a lot of sense in your case where you have an excellent organization like WasteCheck who already delivers your education for you. So again, that would be a case where I would expect you to just take their money and allow things to continue as they are right now. Again, our model calls for maintaining or improving the current level of curbside service. Again, we don't want our residents to even notice that a change has occurred. It's important to know the EPR really just deals with the residential recycling material. What we see in other parts of the province and other stewardship programs, EPR programs, is that there's capacity in the system to handle the commercial recycling material, but those commercial entities will pay for it themselves, much like it is now. I mean, you don't pay for Sobeys or Walmart's recycling, they have to pay for it themselves. And these models have to allow time for planning and transition. The way this works is the government of Nova Scotia doesn't say, we shall have EPR, it looks like this. It says, we shall have EPR. And then it's up to industry to actually write proposal to the minister and submit it, and the minister reviews and either accepts or rejects it. Now, based on what we've seen from the other jurisdictions, we have a pretty good idea of what that plan would look like, because industry wants continuity across the province, just like everyone else, across the country. The EPR model is very sensitive to business, and particularly small business. Now, there's 3 particular protections in here built in for small business. The first one we call de minimis, and what that means is if your gross revenues are under $2 million per year, EPR does not affect you at all. Now, if your revenues are $2 million and one, that doesn't mean it's going to significantly impact you. In the other jurisdictions, if the de minimis is $2 million and you're in that range of $2 million to $5 million a year, typically the way you're impacted is you will pay a flat fee for the year to support the program. It's really not worth the energy and the amount of work it would take to find out exactly how many packs of craft beer you sold, so how much you have to contribute to the system. Because these are so detailed, if you're in that $2 million to $5 million range, you'd likely write a check for either a couple of hundred or a couple of $1,000s a year, and that would be how EPR would impact you in that $2 million to $5 million range. The second protection for business is what we call a single storefront. That means if you have a location, just one, and you're not part of a franchise, it doesn't matter if you had $10 million in sales a year. You've just got that one storefront and you're not part of a franchise, then you're exempt. It doesn't impact you whatsoever. And the third protection is if you put less than 1 ton of recyclable material into the system each year, then you're exempted. If you're a business and the only thing you put out there is a cardboard box, and you don't put a ton of cardboard boxes out there, there's your exemption. It doesn't matter how much money you pay. So again, there's 3 protections built in there for small business. Also, newspapers and registered charities are exempted from these programs as well. The proposed model is again harmonized with the other Canadian EPR programs, and there has to be monitoring compliance of these programs to ensure a level playing field. Typically, there's a third party that would be responsible for overseeing the EPR's system, so again, just to make sure it's a level playing field. Well, hopefully by now, what's in our EPR proposal we provided to government more than a year ago. You know how we got to where we are, and really all we're asking now is that any chance you get to bang the drum, please keep the pressure on the province to move forward on what really we consider low-hanging fruit. I mean, 80% of the population of the country has this. Industry is very receptive to it. Again, their only caveat is they want to uniform, don't make it different than other people's. And we certainly we're not proposing that. So industry is supportive, municipalities are supportive. We just need the new government to act on it. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Matthew?
I got a quick one, Gus. I know we're talking about boxes of craft dinner and stuff. When you think about it in the bigger scale industry, if Atlantic but if Nova Scotia was to take it on, would you see I know in a box of craft dinner you're talking a fraction of a cent, but if we're talking about electronics and tires and stuff like that, we already see like a $2 to $50 hit every time we purchase one of those items. Would that double because we're now entering into the system?
No, those programs like the tires and electronics, those are all separate stewardship programs, so EPR wouldn't have any impact on those at all. This is really just targeting material that currently isn't under any sort of stewardship program. So it's basically all the material you would put in your blue bag at home, the craft dinner box, your soup can, whatever the case may be. So it's really targeting materials that currently are not governed by any other stewardship program. So it wouldn't impact existing programs.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
David?
Other jurisdictions where they've done EPR, like big polluters like, say, McDonald's or Tim Hortons, do they just pay the check, or is there any attention to actually polluting less?
I guess the way to answer that is that one of the things that EPR is supposed to do, I can't swear that it has done it yet, but what it's supposed to do is drive the production of more environmentally friendly materials, packaging materials. I love that craft dinner example because that's an excellent packaging. It's one material. There's no extra packing, very easy to recycle. Pringles, on the other hand, is horrible packaging, 3 different items in there, metal, papers, plastic, and it has to go in the garbage. So there's pressure on them to be more environmentally friendly. And I think it's reasonable to propose that if they're actually paying the cost of looking after those materials, then they will be a little bit more concerned about what they're putting out there. But other than that, there's no direct impact or pressure on them, I suppose, to change their ways.
Sounds like the fees are so low, there would be not too much pressure for that, really.
Well, they're so low on an individual unit basis, but if you're selling that many units, I guess it adds up. But we're talking just in Little Nova Scotia alone, payments to municipalities, and this is the direct payments, not the avoided costs that you'd be looking at. But we estimate it to be somewhere around $20 million a year of cash in pocket to Nova Scotia municipalities. But again, the real big saving is in the avoided costs, the paying for the recycling and paying for the collection.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you so much, Gus. I really appreciate it. I know it's been a busy day there for you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. And again, I apologize for the technical issues.
It's probably on our end, don't worry about it.
Totally Gus's fault.
All right. Thank you all again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. At this time, our second presentation is the Fundy YMCA. Could we have someone move for them to come forward, please?
Motion to have the Puppy YMCA come forward.
And to do the presentation. Angela seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Please come. As long as you were sitting, you can have your mask off. Like you had to come and move, you had to have it on.
Okay.
Just so you know, that's why we're sitting without masks on.
Yeah.
But if we get up, mask is on.
Thank you.
I'm just in the habit of wearing mine all the time, but I'm at home.
Okay. Well, that's good, I guess.
I feel like I forget to put it back on. To be honest here. Oh,
So my microphone's on, yes?
Yeah, it should
yeah,
Okay.
there's green lights on.
green.
I usually talk forcefully enough, I don't need a microphone, but anyway, I'll go with the flow.
It's because you're being recorded as well.
Yes, I realize, yeah, that's happening. Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Warden, councillors, staff. My name is Lawrence Garner. I'm the chair of the board of the YMCA of Southwest Nova, of which Fundy YMCA is a member of that unit. Today I'm here as a substitute. The known person that would be here would be our CEO, Yvonne Smith. She's unable to attend. She's dealing with a very serious illness with her husband, which is commanding a lot of her time. So in typical wife fashion, we needed somebody to step in, and that was me. So you have me for this part of the presentation, but the main part of the presentation will come from Amy, and she'll be leading most of the show. But I would like to say in advance of that, thank you for the opportunity to present to you. We think it's very important as we make our grant application that we provide you with enough information and background to really support that grant application and make it successful. So I'll hand now over to Amy and please lead on.
Yes, so my name's Amy Daigle. I'm the center manager for the Fundy YMCA. I've been with them for just over a year. I started right before COVID, and 3 weeks in had to lay off all the staff and close the door. So trial by fire, but that's okay. We're doing pretty well. Sorry, I'm just following along on my own because I've got some notes here. So I just want, can you go back one time? Thank you. So I wanted to say thank you for your contributions thus far. So the county has given $100,000 to the capital campaign. I believe that was back when they were first opening their doors. Obviously, I didn't work for them back then, but that was helping get it all up and running. So that's a huge, massive donation, and thank you for that. And then again, from 2015 to 2019, the county donated $12,500 every year for 5 years. And so we're asking for that continued support. So we're looking for $12,500 each year for 3 years, and that's our ask right now. We did 3 instead of 5 because we know things are, it's hard to tell the future right now, as we all know. So we thought we'd go with 3 years and see where we went from there. Thank you. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the why. That's a lot of text. Usually I don't put a lot of text on slides, so I might read that to you. But first of all, I joined the YMCA having no background with the YMCA whatsoever. I'd never even stepped into a YMCA. So I joined the Yarmouth YMCA as the center manager down there because I was looking for a pool. I had moved to Nova Scotia recently. I was looking for how to stay active in the winter, in the wind and the snow. I'm from BC originally, and I lived in Australia before that. For the last 6 years before I moved out here. So I was Googling a pool. I happened to walk into the Yarmouth YMCA. They needed a center manager. I ended up looking into them and really aligned with their vision and mission, which is what I've put here. And so the Fundy YMCA is dedicated to the growth of all persons in spirit, mind, and body, and to their sense of responsibility to each other and the global community. And that mission kind of expands out from there, and you can read that if you want, but that spoke to me a lot. So I've worked for big business like Apple and IKEA and Lululemon, and through all of those jobs, I always did a lot of community outreach within those organizations, but I was like, oh, this would be a really cool way to get involved in this community and really give back to the community and back to the people. And so then I had the opportunity to move up to the Fundy Y, and so I did that. The Fundy Y is an amazing facility. I can't believe it's in the middle of Cornwallis. Like, no offense to anybody who's watching, but Cornwallis is kind of the middle of nowhere. And yeah, we have this beautiful, amazing facility. So another thing that I wanted to share about was that the YMCA, even though it's a big brand and we probably all know the name of it, it does not operate like big brands. It's actually a federation model. And so all of the associations, there's 44 in Canada, and they operate financially independently from each other. And so that's why we go out in the community and ask for money. And so that independence is fantastic because it means we can really respond to the needs of our specific communities. Obviously, rural Nova Scotia is not like Greater Toronto. We have completely different sets of needs, right? So that's fantastic in that way, but it means we don't have the kind of funding that you can get in Greater Toronto. That's a completely different model. They have a way bigger membership base, of course. They have way more childcare, things like that that help fund and do that kind of thing. And so that was a really interesting learn for me when I joined the YMCA. We're going to go to the next slide, Tyler, if you don't mind. And so what we wanted to share with you is that our total membership right now is at 610. That's regular paying members, so they're paying every month. That's down about 35% from the same time the previous year, so 2020 to 2019. Of course, COVID is a big part of that. We also know, I'm sure many of you know, that our main pool is not operation. That affects us as well. But those are not bad numbers considering that it's COVID and we don't have a pool. 65% were still regular paying members, and that doesn't include all the visitors who just come and pay one-off. So they might come for a day pass or they might just bring their family down for a swim, whatever. Now, of those members, Annapolis County constitutes 55.6%. Not surprising, it's in Annapolis County, right? Digby County is 40%. So a huge amount of our membership comes from this side of the bridge. So that was an important number to share. There's a little small amount, 4.2%, that come from elsewhere. Maybe they reside in Halifax and they're coming to visit, or I don't know, maybe they come from Clare, I don't know. But I don't have the exact specifics of where those people come from, but they're not in one of those two counties.
I apologize because I don't want to interrupt, but I got to go back.
Yeah, that's fine.
When you're talking Digby County, then you're only talking about Digby Municipality and the town?
We're talking about everything.
Clare,
Because the county includes Clare. That's why I wondered.
Okay, so yes, it would be all of that.
Okay. And
I'm from Clare, for instance, and so, yeah.
No, because when you made that comment about Clare, that's why I had to back up and ask.
Yeah, the municipality is slightly different than the county.
Yeah, it is, and I'm still learning. I'm sorry, I apologize.
No. But when, it's just that.
It's a foible.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to misrepresent anything, but...
No, it's just that when you made the comment, I thought...
You're right, so I might be wrong about where those 4.2% come from, because I actually don't know. So I'm trying to guess where they come from. I don't
It's
actually.
okay. But,
We have two from Briar Island, and that is in the
that's
municipality.
Digby Municipality.
Yeah, they were farther away than Clare, probably.
Yeah.
I'll let you go on. I apologize. I just had to...
No, that's totally understandable. And so our next slide is all about our facility. And did I miss something? That's fine. Sorry, I'm just misreading my own notes, I apologize. And so our facility includes, obviously, that main pool, which is not operational at the moment, and that's something we're working through with the County of Annapolis. The building is actually owned by the County of Annapolis, and the YMCA was brought in as a partner to operate. And that's because the YMCA is great at the service side of it, of the program operation. That's where our skill set lies. It also means that we can hire people not at government rates, as much as we want to pay people more. We can't always, and so we can keep those running costs down. We can also seek grants and fundraising that the government wouldn't be eligible for. So that's where bringing in a Y partnership is often a good way to go. And so we've got the pool, we've got a little top pool that we are currently using, and we're running a lot of programming out of it. So that's about less than a meter deep, that little pool, but we run it warmer for our youngest residents to use. We also have a therapy pool, which runs even more hot, and so a lot of people do rehabilitation in that one. We've got our gym and fitness center. We've got a couple different studios to do exercise classes in. We have a walking track, and obviously all the shower and facilities like that. But we're so much more than a facility. What people come to our facility for is obviously the health and well-being. That's an obvious part of it, but a huge part of it is the social and the community. So they want to get together with other people, and we really saw that through COVID. Through the COVID closure, sorry, we're still in COVID, obviously, but through the closure, it was really obvious that people needed that connection, and so I was one of the few staff who was still on during the closure, and I was talking to people every day and just chatting with them. I would call up members, participants, or they would call me and just say, what did I know? And we would chat for half an hour sometimes, and it was just a way to stay connected to things, and that's a huge thing. And so a few people have been slow to come back because they were worried about COVID, but they have made the choice to come back because they need that social connection, and that is a huge and important part of what we do. We'll go to the next slide. So on that pool, so even without our main pool right now, the pool is obviously a huge driver for the YMCA, so I don't want to go beyond without touching on that, but even without that main pool, we're still managing to run 63 participants through our water arthritis and aquafit classes every week, and so we see a lot of our people with our really low mobility where we've adapted it to work it in the top pool. So it's a shallow pool, but we make it work, and 63 people are coming through every week for that. 20 children come through, and we run kids club and have swimming on Mondays and Fridays, and 20 kids a week come through and join that. 330 participants attend public swims every week. So we have something called open swims, and oftentimes they're renting out the whole pool for their bubble. And so I even have a family group coming up from Clare, a parent talk group coming up and renting it out for their little bubble and using it like that. 44 kids, our littlest kids, so our 3 to 5 year olds, actually it's our under 5-year-olds, I should say, are attending swim lessons every week. 50 tots and their parents come for parent-taught swim, so they're getting that social. They're meeting other adults and children every week.
How old are you considering the tot? 2 or 1 or?
Probably 3 and under.
3, okay.
Roughly. Yeah. We're not too picky. If they're a parent and they have a young kid and they want to come socialize, then that pool time's there for them. And about 150 people use the spa pool for some kind of rehabilitation or rest. Maybe they go in there after a workout, or maybe they come and do their exercises in there because that's a more comfortable space for them than dry land. And so, for instance, we have a young gal named Chloe. She comes with her work aide during her school day, and she comes and uses that therapy pool. She's on the autism spectrum, I should say, and has some developmental disabilities as well. And that's a really important time and place for her to come and relax.
I didn't know you guys did that. That's interesting.
Yeah, we do all kinds of cool arrangements with people, and we're pretty open to anything people want to suggest. Tina's another great example. So Tina comes and attends our water art classes. She did it when we were in the big pool. She's come and adapted to the little pool, but Tina 2 years ago had a kind of infection that made her paralyzed, and she couldn't move at all. She was in a wheelchair, completely wheelchair bound, and over the last 2 years she's worked with us and is able to walk on her own. She still gets a lot of help from an aide, but it's completely reopened up her life. She was a perfectly healthy person before that and had that illness, and that changed her life for the worse. And so this is a huge part of her mental health and physical well-being, and she would feel lost without it. So those are just a few examples of how this matters to people, right? So can we go to the next slide? Thanks, Tyler. And so our program impact goes obviously far beyond just the doors like I've described. So swim lessons are a huge part of it, and when we have that main pool, we do things like scared stiff. So for people who are deathly afraid of the water, especially even adults, they can come and take swim lessons, and we'll work them through those fears. Water safety is hugely important in Nova Scotia with all the oceans and the lakes. People spend a lot of time out there, so we run Swim to Survive programs and swim lessons for everything from babies, introducing them to the water, all the way up to adults. We have cardiac rehab programs, so we're working with Nova Scotia Health Authority right now, and they come in and work with our fitness director, and she's trained in kinesiology, and so she works with them and helps them get back on track and get their heart health, their physical health, to work with their heart health, keep their heart healthy. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words. And so that's an important partnership and an important program. And then we've got all kinds of things for kids, like Kids Club, which is a space that the kids can come and use and play, and they have all kinds of creative adventures with us. They go in the pool, but it also gives the parents a time to go and work out. Or some of our parents are homeschoolers, and they just come and sit in our lobby and have a break from their kids, and their kids have a break from them. And they have access to the Wi-Fi, and I know that sounds kind of terrible, but this is the reality of COVID, right? Like, we're in each other's spaces all the time, and lots of people are still working from home and homeschooling and doing everything. So that's another example. And yes, there's a lot of other programs we run, but those are some examples. I'll go on to the next slide. So a huge thing we do is that we don't want finances to ever be a barrier to access for anyone to the Y. And so we subsidize memberships up to 50%. And so if anyone feels like they can't afford the full cost of a membership, they can come to us. They'll have a discrete meeting with one person. It takes about 10 minutes. We discuss what they can afford, and then we subsidize up to 50%. So that means a youth membership could be as little as $14 a month. And that means they can access every single thing the Y has to offer, all of the facilities and all of the programs for that little. A family of however many, 2 adults and however many children you have, can access it for $50 a month. And so that is a massive thing of what we do, and we're funding about 150 memberships a month right now through that financial assistance, which is roughly equivalent to $27,000 a year in cost to subsidize that. So the next one, thanks, Tyler. And then there's a huge social side. So we get involved in parades when we have things like that, Scallop Days and Natal, is it Natal Day? Yes.
Natal Day.
Thank you. We host things like fun runs, or the trunk or treat, where we did trick-or-treating from people's trunks, and they decorated the cars, and so the kids had a safe space to go do all their trick-or-treating and didn't have to go so far. We have the Friendly Bean Cafe, so people pre-COVID could come, and it was a bit of a potluck, and they'd share food, and it was a chance to have a bit of a social and coffee and tea and just an event for people in the community. And lots of these things that we do are free, and they're welcome for anyone to join. Our next slide goes just a bit more into our community involvement. So we've done all kinds of programs, like with Annapolis Valley Health, the smoking cessation. We work with the cadets a lot. They come and use the facility every summer, and that's a partnership we have with both the cadets and ABCC. We've worked with senior living. We work with the rec departments in both Digby and Annapolis. Nova Scotia Works. Y-Reach is actually really important. So Y-Reach is a government-funded program in partnership with the YMCA, and it's for newcomers and settlers. And so every Y facility has a member of the Y-Reach team in our facility, and they go out into community and help with things, help newcomers get settled, but also help businesses find newcomers and help them sponsor them if they want to create jobs for those kinds of people. And yeah, the list goes on and on. I won't read everything to you, but you get an idea of how we go out in the community. Thanks, Tyler. And so these are some of our partners. So we don't ask just for government funding. We get funding from ABCC, the conference center, Acadian Sheep Plants. We work with the Annapolis Valley Health, like I said, the Recreation, Bear River First Nations, Brilliant Labs. And that's not all just funding. we might partner with them in all kinds of different ways. So Brilliant Labs is another great nonprofit organization, and they've come in and done special days for the kids in STEAM learning, so science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So they might come and do something like that for us, or we run a camp together. I'm currently working on with the Annapolis River. The Clean Annapolis River Project. I was like, it starts with a C. What? Yes. To do an outdoor summer camp or think something like that. So we're open to all kinds of partnerships, and so it's not just insular at the Y, it's with everyone. Sea Ridge is another huge partner of ours, and they bring their rehabilitation patients in to come work out and get a break from just being at Sea Ridge, and we're really working on that physical health because that's a huge part of mental health, right? Okay, so I'm going to hand over to the lovely Lauren.
Okay, that's good. I know you said 20 minutes. I think we might just be a little bit longer, but we might have the substitute on this side of things, so I'm going to do my best on this presentation portion. But here we wanted to put some hard numbers to the direct financial impact of the Y has, the Fundy Y has, on this region. And again, it's the county reference, but we have 2019. I'm talking to that number because that was our pre-COVID number. So there is, at the rate of 58% of the payroll, that's the kind of money that's flowing back directly into this county. And those are the direct impacts, very measurable, very tangible. The Fundy purchases, we do buy goods and services from the county. We've identified $32,000 in 2019. A little less in 2020. It will, of course, come back up when we get back into a normal operation. So there's very easy parts of any process to measure the direct financial impact. The more difficult is the next slide, which is the indirect financial impact. And if you go on and study indirect financial impact, when everybody does economic studies, when there are new proposals for new developments, that type of thing. There's a laundry list of items that come out of that. What I did for this purpose of this meeting was just pick on a few that I thought were relevant, and particularly relevant to our location and Digby County and Fundy Y. And first off is the high percentage of Y employees that don't reside in Digby, but live within the catchment area of the businesses in Digby itself. And within that, we have obviously almost $200,000 of payroll going to those people that will in turn feed much of that back into the Digby economy. And I can speak to that myself. I know Amy can speak to the same thing. It's a tremendous amount of that does flow into this region. It's starting to get down into more nebulous points of whether we can identify specific amounts, but we do fully aware of what we do in the tourism field in entertaining many guests that are tourists here that are at camp and trailer grounds, Airbnb, guest house cabins, that type of thing. And many of them come to the YMCA and use those facilities. And obviously at Warfare Rally we identify with one because at that time of the year we have quite a number that move in there. And obviously they're feeding back into the economy of Digby County. I put on there a note there around about the transit system because that's identified in every financial study. For growth and what have you, the attitude of having an interconnected network that's serviced by public transit is very, very important. And the Cornwallis serves as a transfer station on the Kings County system, brings people down from the Annapolis County to connect there, bring them down into Digby County. And most of the residents of Digby County many of the residents of Digby County, I won't say most, can access our facility through the transportation system that exists.
And it's the most vulnerable people that use that bus too to get there.
Yes, very so. The next couple of items refer to real estate. I put those on because they became very evident this was in Yarmouth County, after the ferry was lost and there was a lot of economic studies done on the impacts of this type of thing. The reverse was true there was a real downturn on real estate purchase decisions, i.e. people didn't want to come to the area, it wasn't accessible anymore, and the values went down with it. The tax base also went down with it. So, in truth, when we have these services, the reverse is also true. Because we have the facilities available for people to research, see, do they want to move to the area, this looks good, those things are there. It becomes a real economic driver as to whether to make this area their residence. And true of real estate values, as you've seen recently, the real estate market is very dynamic, and much of that is about the decision process. I'm not saying the why is the sole proponent of whether they come here, but it's certainly a united feature. If you come in with a family and you see those kind of resources, it's a big driver. The rehabilitation services that Amy alluded to, there we've got a fair amount of that. We're doing the best we can with the top pool being used, but it's very much used as a therapeutic area, getting people back on their feet, getting people being back in the active economy of an area. Preventative health, and I'm going to speak to this because two areas that when I had my business, you saw Foremost was a supporter of the Y. Well, we used to believe a lot in getting our staff through that facility as much as possible. And it helped in both areas. Preventative health, reducing the impact on the health service system. And as an employer, having people show up every day because they've got that improved health system. And the Y played a pivotal role for us in making sure that people were fit and healthy and able to go. We did that through subsidizing memberships. I think the first year we did it, we had about 17 of our staff were members of the Y through that proposal. So we enjoyed that. And the last thing, employee retention, available recreation activities. People are happy here. People got things to do. People stay here. And this is part and parcel of the overall picture of the area with the Y there, with its facilities that it has. So those are some of the things that I identified on indirect. I could go on for a long time. I know we only have 20 minutes, and I think we've already used more than that. So I think we want to open it up for some questions. Sorry about the time.
I'm sorry, I forgot to set my timer. I talked way too long. I apologize.
If I wanted to stop you, we would have said thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're a pleasant group, so we don't do that.
So, in actual fact, I'm going to go around the room. George, would you have any questions?
No questions.
David?
Yeah, I think there's a broad positive impact on the quality of life. Of course, there's an economic component to that. Before COVID, I used to get free swim tickets for the school to give away as prizes for kids being well behaved, and it was the #1 free prize, even above a Sunday.
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
Just so you know, even from down in the islands, they'd make a trip out of it, and
Yes.
Right.
even that far away. The only thing is the application was for operational funding. That can be problematic, right, for our policies for operational funding for this sort of stuff. I'm just wondering if maybe they could reword it this. For example, they said that the subsidization program of memberships was approximately $25,000. Maybe half of that for policy reasons. Just, for their request for funding. Am I correct in that, or am I wrong, or?
Well, I guess I would suggest the fact that we funded it for 5 years previously.
Yeah, I know.
People would be concerned about finding a way to fund this.
Okay, then. Yeah.
Official.
There you go. I was just wondering. I guess I'll have somebody else coming along asking for operational funding here in a minute. I liked it all. Yeah, very good.
Okay, Angela?
No questions?
Matthew?
Do you have the data on, I think you maybe do, and I missed it, but your membership for February 2020, do you have it for last month? Your membership totals, do you have?
Oh,
that's
I
good.
think
That's on there.
yeah, so that's 610 for last
Yeah.
month.
That's amazing.
610 last month?
Yeah,
Oh, and
there's
what?
935.
935, so
I might have wrote those dates wrong now.
You kept the numbers up really well. It's amazing,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I'm really proud of us. We're working hard at it, and I'm really proud of what we're achieving.
Oh, I know. Oh, I have one more question.
Okay, David, go ahead.
The pool, is that a long-term thing that it's going to be down?
It's been a long-term thing.
It has been.
We're crystallizing to a result on that, and there has to be some decision. We don't make that decision. The County of Annapolis, but they've been going through a long, drawn-out process of investigation. We're pushing to get that to an answer, and so we're anticipating having that in the next couple of months, where we are, because we need to. There's still talk that the cadets are coming this year, and that is a commitment that's been made, but there is always the opportunity with that kind of decision for it to get reversed. So it's not set in stone, but obviously they're a big component of users of our facility, and very much a driver in the ABC's realm of attracting that type of thing. So we want to get that running. We want to have it running before that. We want to have it running for our members. But let's keep in sight some big things coming down the road, and we need to have that now.
and I think the County of Annapolis is looking at the whole building, because they own that entire building, and so there's upkeep costs on all of that. Getting support from partners from other municipalities and counties is a huge positive in that direction, right? To show them the value and that everybody's committed, not just them holding up the whole thing.
Matthew?
When you say Digby County, have you done a presentation for Digby Town or the Municipality of Clare?
Not yet, but that is on our radar.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah, you're the big guy, so.
Yeah.
You first.
Is there any other further questions? Then at this time, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. If you wish, you can sit here and listen to our full meeting, and if you don't and want to leave, that's
Fun.
okay.
If you're a normal person, I think.
I'm gonna put my hand up on that one.
Never mind.
It's too exciting for you. You won't be able to
Just
handle
wonder
it.
if we can sell some memberships while we're here.
Yes, I believe one of you is an active member at the moment, but 4 of you are not.
Who's the active member? You? Matt?
Angela is, right?
Look at me.
We've been there.
I know. I think all of you have been members at one point in time.
Oh yeah, we've been members of one.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry for talking too long.
Thank you. No, that's no problem.
We appreciate very informative.
Though, if I was to spend $12,000 on something, I think my favorite thing to pick would be half the subsidization program. All I'm saying. It sounds better.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the minutes of February 8th that were circulated. Is there any errors or omissions?
I'll give you approval of the February 8th minutes.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carries. Is there any unfinished business from those minutes that you would like to bring forward?
I'm good.
Okay, then we will continue. The next is our CAO report, and it starts off with reminding you about our upcoming meetings, bylaw and policy on March 15th at 5, none on March 22nd, on the 29th is council. And then remember, from April 6th, it's Tuesday, so that one is because of the holiday. I remember. So on April the 6th, we have bylaw and policy. On the 13th, committee of the whole. On the 20th, there will be an audit committee. And on the 27th will be council. Okay?
Will next week's bylaw and policy be extended like last week with supper and?
So we include that information when we send you the email, right, on Thursdays, so that'll be, I would imagine, I haven't taken a deep look at it, but I would suggest most likely this one, and what do we got there? That April 6th?
Yeah.
Those are the 3 big bylaws of the year. I would anticipate all 3 of those being 2-hour plus each.
Okay.
Periwinkles for everyone. Give me $5 to save you guys some money.
Not in this world, boy.
Instead of pepperoni and cheese, periwinkles and dolls.
And you want me to tell you?
Half price.
Thank you. And for me, they're called pennywinkles.
Oh, they're called that too.
And I'm still allergic to them.
Pennywinkles, periwinkles. Well, there you
Now,
go.
on saying that, thank you for those updates. There is no actions for this meeting from the committee of the whole from last month.
I would like to mention something that was mentioned by Matt Ross when discussing the rural internet, and I thought it was like a really good idea, and that is you're discussing the cell towers and the 3 areas that we have, and actually paying for some of the hardware for it. Matt was mentioning or subsidizing it up on the top of that, remember? Or am I getting you mixed up with somebody else? Somebody was mentioning in regards to the cell phone towers in those areas that are chronically underserviced, that there isn't enough people in those areas to justify for the companies to upgrade.
Well, we got updates Jeff the last time of what they had said or something.
Yeah, there was no business case.
That's something I'd definitely like to keep on if there's any agenda for communication now that the money for rural internet's rolling out. I think that's the obvious spot, like Culloden, Bear River, Freeport. Westport, all those places have terrible service, and I'm sure back in your area is exactly the same. I would like to have that be.
Okay, what we would do is that would be something we'd put on the strategic plan,
Okay.
and it's being noted now, so when we,
Yeah, I think you may have been absent for the update, so I think so council had sent a letter on this to Bell, I think
It
back
was.
last spring. So my update had been in regards to, we finally heard from them and actually had someone that I was able to have a conversation with about that there are certain technologies they have that could help address some of these areas, but that the business cases aren't there, but that they're hearing the same kind of rumors, they're low-level rumors at this point, but if there were funds left over at Develop Nova Scotia after the internet, that the biggest single boost, the issue is not unique to our rural area,
Okay.
right? That these sell, so they are watching and hoping, and we've heard some of the same rumors that there may be a program, so we're watching that very closely. If there isn't, it's certainly, we are the next line of partnerships.
Yeah.
But like I say, they're open for those conversations, so we are watching this file.
Wonderful, because ever since I heard it, I just keep thinking about it every day. Like, my mind keeps wandering back to it, thinking, geez, that'd have a real positive impact.
okay, great, thank you. The RCMP review, we gave direction to write the letter. There's no update on asset management. There is the Accessibility Act. Dark has confirmed that they are participating. And Tyler is drawing up terms of reference.
Have the villages?
And getting, right? When it says we, you mean you? Okay. And getting ready to advertise for committee members.
I've been talking to villagers, the village commissioners too, a bit. They've been seeing me walking around the street and asking about this. I think they're all quite thrilled.
Could you mention to them that, because I haven't heard back from any of the villages.
Oh, well, okay, I'll tell
They
them.
have to.
They just need to confirm, basically.
Okay, I'll write that down right now. I see them all the time.
Okay. In rural internet, as you know, we have signed the contract for the Raymond Danvers area contract. Work continues in Bear River with approximately 50% of the customers connected. We continue to field a number of calls from residents and councilors attempting to determine if their home will be connected. The Wren, Evan, has been very helpful with these inquiries. Had a team call with reps from mainland, Evan and myself, to discuss the mainland project and their planned approach. And that means not me, the CAO, just so we know from reading who we are. The next, with Compass, we have had a Zoom call to discuss the timelines, turning the property over in the public meeting for future planning. Compass expects to provide a time for the future of the project within the month of March. COVID-19. During March 1st, bylaw and policy meeting confirmed that we will continue to host only municipal meetings in this building. Lobster dispute. The group met with Alistair Surratt for the second time, and Zoom calls with the group continue, and another letter is being sent to the minister. We expect a federal announcement in early March on this issue, and we have a meeting coming up on Wednesday.
Nice to see this.
I really can't.
Thank goodness.
I don't have a lot to say on that until we have the meeting. I think that's the best thing. The CAOs are always on that meeting with us.
I'll be glad to see some firm rules put in place for this so we won't have to have problems going in the future.
I agree. Now, did you want to bring anything else forward, Jeff?
No, I think that covers everything. I think I pretty accurate in my prediction that there would be an announcement in early March, seeing as the day after I wrote this, the minister made her announcement on that one.
You didn't send information.
Yeah, no, I think that covers everything.
Okay. The next were the departmental reports. The first one was from Nicole Robbins, and as you can see, our numbers have dropped for the tax sale, just so you know.
There's a little bit of a difference year to year. I wonder if that's the COVID or if that's that we only sent one tax bill out.
I think I could update that it is caught up 100% to last year exactly.
So there probably was not COVID. Probably
So that just seemed to be there was maybe a bit of a delay in some of the stages where you see the numbers not lining up. but for the number that we will take to tax sale, we're actually going to be below what I call our average, so lining up very well. with-
I've had abnormal interest in this tax sale. I've had so many phone calls where I said, I can't answer anything, call the municipality, here's their phone number.
Yeah.
It's like one after another. I never get called about these.
Me neither.
One after another. I bet you I got 6-7 calls.
Okay, after that departmental report, I think the next one was Tyler's.
The not
Yeah,
good
it was
report.
Tyler. Does anyone have any questions on
That looks pretty
Tyler
good.
about that?
Tough act to follow with Jeff's report there, Tyler. Like, come on, man.
Okay, if there's no questions for Tyler, the next one I believe was Coralie's,
Terry.
and then Terry's. But Coralie, any questions for Coralie first? No? Okay. The next one is Terry Thibodeau's. If we have any questions, we would give them to Tyler, and Tyler would pass them on. Is there any questions?
He's doing lots of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He's a whirlwind of activity, and I think that I'd like to talk more about Tyler in the budget, not Tyler, Terry in the budget process, and options and opportunities and all that sort of thing. I popped in and talked to him very high level, just a little chat with him.
Okay. The next was that the next one Heritage? Oh, sorry, Airport Dispatch. So you did notice it was low aircraft movements for February, and yes, he was at the Fire Association meeting. He's very helpful, I find, at those meetings. Yeah. He is. He's right on.
Who, Bruce?
Yes. With information for them, and yeah. Okay, next was
That's our gold standard
the
thing that we
dog
bought,
control,
and I'm comfortable with it.
and it was only 3 complaints. So,
The owners nowadays, dogs are valuable. Can't be losing your dog, $1,000 replace them.
okay. And the next was Raw Percy Heritage, and what's been happening with his.
I sent him an unknown graveyard. There's one on Long Island. I thought it was kind of interesting. That's one interesting thing to look for. Great old ancient graveyards. The one on Long Island doesn't even have stones; it just has a rock. They didn't even use grave markers.
So again, any questions? And then, of course, we looked at the permit applications, and that seemed to me to be.
More than usual.
Well, I didn't think it was more than usual, but I thought it was a little higher than normal.
Yep.
But not more in numbers, was it? I felt it
No,
was the same.
there's a single high value, well, there's 2 somewhat high value properties in there, right? But one in particular high value property, this was Muskogear.
Yeah, okay. And then the last staff report was Jonathan's.
I
Any
have one question for this.
Okay.
I know that Jonathan made he had some of his trails budget and made it available to Briar Island for their application. I was just wondering how much money from the trails budget was that?
We'd have to, again, Tyler will take
Sorry,
that.
Tyler, I'm looking at the wrong person.
No, Tyler will take that and bring it back.
It would be Jeff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jonathan, so we do
I was going by, he was the boss.
the trail grants are that we do the $1,000 community trail grants, right? So we set aside, I think, $8,000 in the budget every year for the various trail groups to apply. We usually have 6 in any given year, not the same 6, but in any given year, 6 of the trail groups usually apply for funding. So yeah, I think BITS has applied a couple of years.
Oh, I thought that he had applied for money beyond that $1,000. I guess that would come to council if that happened.
Definitely.
Okay, because I know that they're doing some sort of federal money they're chasing after.
There is very active work underway with BITS pursuing other funding. I would agree with that right now. There's an emphasis on the very active.
Oh yeah, so I know what they're like for sure, man.
Sorry about that.
I created that group for a group.
Okay. And I believe that was the end of the departmental reports, and there was no more further questions, but they're all very well done. Do we accept the departmental report? No, okay. The next, there is no dangerous and unsightly premises business, so we're gonna go to business items. George's Bank drilling. We have been asked if we would write and ask for the moratorium to continue. It's a huge area of fishing activity.
Especially,
And,
yeah.
They have asked
The amount of money that's taken off of George's Bank and fish is, eclipses by a vast amount the amount of money they're looking to get at oil. So just from the precautionary principle, as Rick Wallace brought up there a couple weeks ago, I think we should extend our support to that organization and oppose.
Okay, there's one letter they asked us to send to Emily Lutz, which is our NSFM president,
Mhm.
and the other was the Honorable Chuck Porter, Minister.
That's a new minister now.
That's a new minister now of Nova Scotia Energy and Mines. So, and of course, the Honorable Sigmund
O'Regan for the feds.
Orion. And the other, of course, we should CC as our MLA. So, how do others feel about this?
Yep, the guys of the province.
So, are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion to that effect, that we write letters to the provincial, federal ministers and the NSFM.
NSFM.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Good call. Guys.
Contrary minded, motion carried. The next is the Oak Dean windows. Angela, do you know more about this project?
I don't. He did call me the day after he submitted the proposal, after I got the email, and he said that they've been working with Gordon Wilson and Terry, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was
Terry.
Terry Thibodeau.
Oh, okay.
And he said that he'd be willing to come do a presentation if the council wanted to get more information.
What I would like to see is that we refer this to staff and let staff.
Yeah, I think before we take this to budget, I think understanding a bit more of the timelines or the status of the other requests or where they are with their code process. I think we've got a good high-level understanding of the project here. I think there was, so this project I think has been going on for a number of years. In the current iteration, there was one phone call placed to staff the day before the proposal got sent in. I don't think it's been an active partnership project, I would say, with our role. So yeah, I think understanding the timelines involved and where some of the other partners are or aren't committed before we fully understand where it's a relatively good chunk of funding if we were to move forward. So understanding where
That would be it's a big chunk for sure.
So, would everyone be acceptable that we go back to staff on this one?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Next is the Epilepsy Awareness Day.
Is that the purple?
And
Ribbon, yeah.
purple ribbon.
Yeah.
And with this one, were they asking us?
The light bulb? Didn't you have a purple light bulb out front? Wasn't it these guys?
Ribbons. Ribbons.
Hey, ribbon, John.
Yeah, the purple light bulbs was a different initiative.
Oh, okay. It's hard to remember these
I can't
things.
remember.
I get mixed up easy.
It's the purple ribbons and we take a picture.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
We can do that.
Don't need a motion for
And
that.
we would do that then on our,
29.
on the 29th.
Okay.
Well, I guess I would say, does everyone agree with this?
Yep.
Yes.
Do we need a motion? Yeah. Okay, so we will do that. So please, you'll have your purple ribbon to wear. And sort of try to wear something if you can with a little purple in it.
Yeah. Purple hair, dude.
Yeah, but that would look good on you, George.
Wouldn't
I'd like to see that
You wouldn't even have to dye your
Or
hair
just the
blonde
top part,
first.
just the top part.
Go
The
right
next
through.
is the Digby Municipal Fire Service, the phone. For some reason, we had a letter go missing.
Yeah.
And I thought we had done it. So what I think we need to do is to make a motion to pay the phone for this past
Right,
year
so
that
that's,
we're in.
so, and I guess to clarify, I don't think, we don't have a record of a letter coming into us.
He lost it.
So,
They said.
yeah, there's just one, so yeah, this is for the current fiscal year, the phone is already here.
Okay.
So, the only thing I wanted to mention is that the motion, the amount they request in the letter isn't enough to cover the invoice. That's why we attached the
Yeah.
invoice on the second page.
What's the number?
It's 4,000.
$3,040.
I move. Should I make a motion?
Yes.
I move that we buy $3,040 of foam from the budget from last year's budget. From
For
last
this,
year's
this
budget.
year's budget.
Yes. And then we make another one after this.
No, the next one will be at budget time.
Okay. Yeah.
Is there a second?
Always
Pardon me?
phone year after year?
Yes.
They've asked us, but
We request every year because it's done with all 11 departments.
But 3-4 years ago they all started doing this.
And, yes, sir?
So we have only funded the phone once.
Oh.
They have asked 3.5 years ago for phone, and we funded it that year. They have been consistent with the dry hydrant requests. The foam, I'm not sure if it was usage or I think we are going to see the foam requests consistently moving forward. We had a good meeting with their administration to clear up some communication issues around these requests.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we'll see letters in the budget process related to those.
But is that operating?
No.
No.
And again, I think if we hold off on these discussions on operating, I think we can talk at bylaw and policy. There's a lot of these lines. We deal with a lot of stuff through grants to organizations, as in the funding for the Y, that have their own separate, they're not coming out of the grants to organizations 1% fund like the others are. They come out of the regular budget. We discuss them and debate them through this part of our process, but we'll have a more thorough discussion next week to go through that.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. The next is the Fundy YMCA funding request. Could I have someone move this to budget process, please?
So moved.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. The next is a plaque we received. And it says, I am delighted to send the enclosed community spirit plaque to the municipality of the District of Digby. As we are all aware, during 2020, this province experienced great turmoil, which was all impacted by COVID-19 pandemic and the series of tragic events that soon followed. As a small province with a tight-knit population, the impact of these events were deeply felt across our region. During this period, I had the opportunity to call numerous municipal and Indigenous leaders to speak about how our residents were coping during this difficult time. I was greatly impressed to learn about how resilient and positive Nova Scotians were in adapting to these significant challenges. The wonderful residents of our province demonstrated their amazing spirit and resourcefulness as they found innovative ways to continue their volunteerism and help those who are less fortunate. In recognition of this tremendous spirit and resilience, I have announced the creation of a plaque at the Celebration Community Spirit and Volunteer Ceremony on 28th of September 2020. It is hoped that you will display this plaque in your community. My staff has prepared and enclosed instructions for the installation of the plaque. While we are not able to travel to your community to personally present the plaque, my wife Patsy and I hope there will be an opportunity to visit the municipality of the District of Digby in the near future. The Honorable Arthur J. LeBlanc, Lieutenant Governor. Now, you get that. This is totally brass, and it came in Thursday afternoon. Didn't
wow,
know what
nice.
it was. And I was all excited because I was thinking, oh, it's gonna be candy or something wonderful to share. So, just a minute, I'm gonna come over. So, I did not get it on the agenda because it didn't come into after the agenda. That's why I asked for you. And it's done in English, Gaelic, Mi'kmaq, and French.
Cool.
So there should be
No problem.
no reason why people don't have any problem. And they're going to find the proper place. There is some things, like a picture has to be done with the warden, mayor, or the indigenous leader.
Right on.
For these.
Yeah.
Chief. This never has to be cleaned or polished. They do not want you touching it.
So we got the town?
I
Nothing for the
assume
town.
everybody in the province got one,
Oh, okay.
but I'm really, because the way when I read the letter, I'm assuming so.
Nice.
That's a lot of them. All municipalities.
And I've asked us to go into the coastline.
1,000.
Because I think it's important to get it in
Few bucks there.
sooner than later. I was super pleased with it. And then, of course, even the CAO hasn't seen that.
Mind villages get the hold of Tyler.
Now,
Gotta remember that.
the letter I read back, the only other person who has a copy of that letter who has.
Yeah, you gotta get your village too. Get
Our
hold of Tyler.
Could, see somebody at the village.
That talked to Tyler, of course.
There's right in fires. Getting money in it.
Now, there is something else I did want to mention, and I probably should have mentioned it at the beginning of the meeting. It is International Women's Day today, and that's all across the country. So I want to congratulate all of our staff and our counselors. I do want to say, in municipal government, Nova Scotia has the highest women in Canada at 38%.
Yay.
And we have a lot in management.
There's not very many wardens or mayors. There's only a handful. If I recall, when you were warden before, years ago, you're one of only 2 or 3 in the province, weren't you?
Well, there's a few, but there's much more now.
Good.
So I didn't want to mention that because it wasn't mentioned. Now, the next is correspondence or information items. The first is the Nova Scotia Firefighters Benevolent Fund. In that letter, they have actually asked us as municipalities if we would like to have a presentation, if we would like to look at making a donation. So I do not know what we would like to do. If we would like to pass this on to the budget process.
Yeah, I'd be willing to do that.
Or if we.
I'd be willing to pass it on to the budget process.
So you're making that.
I'll make that motion. Yeah, I move.
And is there a seconder?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
We may end up wanting to do a presentation from them. I mean, the only thing I really know is what that letter says and what they were saying at the meeting the other night. It is there to help.
Are they from Shelburne? Is that right? Was it you who said that this organization?
It's Nova Scotia. Well, I can't tell you what area, but it's for the whole province. So all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. The next is the Fundy Dental Community Project Thank You. And a letter came in to thank us for the $1,000.
I just to let everybody know, I left one of the documents for application forms for anybody you know that might be in the low income cutoff. It can help them get their teeth done, and sometimes I'll do it in conjunction. I'll ask for a small donation from Bethany Bin, and that will help somebody say come up with the $150 or so that they need to get their teeth done. And I only do a form but once every couple months to try to keep like I said, pressure off them. So I left one on everybody's desk, photocopy it up and keep it in a couple copies in your, what I do is keep a couple copies in my bag, and you'll be talking to someone and you'll be like, oh, they might be able to use this.
Now, we have not received a letter from them requesting anything, have we?
You might be getting one later.
Okay. So, that was information with the thank you, and then, of course, the last letter was from Tim Houston, leader of the PC Party of Nova Scotia.
He's been reaching out to the municipal councillors quite a bit lately, it seems. I get letters
I have no
from him every
idea.
now and then, and not
I
the
haven't
others.
heard from him.
On TV,
Is he? I don't.
or?
My attention span's so short, I can't watch television anymore. I can only read
That's
things.
fine. Any questions on that one?
That's good.
Okay. The next, of course, we need to go in camera for a legal issue.
A motion to go in camera?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carries.
Should I close the